All right, we have a city manager update.
Mayor and council members, I have a couple of things for you tonight. One is the update on COVID from the county commissioner or the county's website. In the city of Manvel, 6,830 total COVID cases. That's up 214 from last meeting on the 20th. 158 confirmed cases. That's up 46 from the last meeting. 20 probable cases, that's up 2 from the previous one. 6,603 recovered cases, that's up 166 from the last council meeting, and no additional deaths related to COVID. So it's still out there, but it's not as bad as it has been in the past. The other thing is I wanted to talk to you just briefly about an item that's actually on the consent agenda. It's about the burn ban, and I'm going to start, and then I will ask our fire marshal just to give us a little update of where we are with the regard to the county as well. The mayor issued a disaster declaration proclamation 7 days ago, I guess a week ago Friday, and then last Friday issued a second declaration that extended it to this week. This gives the council the opportunity to consider extending the burn ban and that declaration for an additional 90 days, depending on weather conditions. And if you would remember, I'd mentioned this at a previous council meeting, the KBDI is the index, the drought index. It goes from 0 to 800. Anything over 600 is considered a serious drought, and that's generally where cities, counties issue burn bans. And if, with your permission, I'd like to let the fire marshal just kind of make a brief comment about that, and then be happy to answer any questions if you need them for the consent agenda items.
Joe?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I have not received an update from the County Fire Marshal's office today in regards to the burn ban that they still have in place. I did look at the KBDI since the 30th, and we're still over 600 for all of those days, even though we had 2 days last week with rain. So those numbers are still high. So hopefully tomorrow I should get some updated information from the county to see what direction they're going with, but currently I didn't see very much rain in the forecast coming up, so I'm not really sure seeing that number drop below 600 for at least another week or so.
One of the things, and this is kind of an average, I looked at the Texas Forest Service. They still have Brazoria County at 634. As an average, it's not Manvel specific, but the average for the county is still over that 634. So if you have any questions for the consent agenda item, I'd be happy to answer those during that period. So if not, that's all I have.
Okay.
I'll wait for that period.
Okay, all right. But we're there. But we're there.
So I might be splitting hairs, but something you said is not as it's written on the agenda. So the agenda action item on the consent agenda is to approve a burn ban. But you alluded that we're ratifying the mayor's emergency declaration.
You're correct. The council doesn't. The council takes action apart from a mayoral or a governor's declaration. You would be placing a burn ban in place for 90 days, depending on the conditions. If it drops below 400 for 5 days or more, then the fire marshal would have the ability to end the burn ban for that. So it's a council action. It's initiated by the mayor's declaration, but it's actually a council action.
Okay.
Yeah, any action that I take only takes seven days. Takes effect, yeah. Unless what? Well, exactly, but we want to go for the long haul. All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
All those in favor? All right, we have a 7-0 vote. Thank you. All right. We'll move to the regular agenda. Consideration and possible action to approve a mediated settlement agreement, cause number 117397 CV, Brazoria County Municipal Utility District number 61 versus the City of Manvel. And this was the subject of our executive session, and we will have two members on council who live in the district and would benefit financially by the vote, so they will be abstaining from this vote because of a conflict of interest. Yeah. All right. So, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor? We have a 5-0 vote. Thank you very much. Next. Consideration and possible action to direct staff on Croy Park improvements. Do we have any further discussion after the workshop, or do we want to just make a motion and take a vote? Okay.
The next steps would be the staff would get together the information for the request for bids. We'd put that out, and then we would bring that back to the council for consideration and awarding at a future council meeting.
Okay. And would we reconvene the committee for any of that for?
It doesn't have to be. We can obviously, when we get the bids in, we probably could let them know when we're going to open them, because they would be sealed bids. We could let the task force know, and if they wanted to show up during that time that we actually open them, that would be prior to the council meeting where we would make a recommendation.
Make a recommendation. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
So I'll make a motion to accept the report for the gardens at Quarry Park design, adopt the master plan, and direct the city manager to accept the timeline outlined in the plan.
All right. Thank you. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we have a majority vote of 7-0. Thank you. Yay! Okay. Next, we have consideration and possible action to approve a subdivision variance request for property located in the Del Bello Lakes Development, Section 8, for relief from Chapter 62, Section 62-111, and additional street requirements, and authorize the mayor to execute the development agreement. Jessica.
Good evening. The DeBella Lakes property owner and developer is requesting the variance to section 62-111 A and C of the subdivision ordinance on behalf of the city for an unimproved 40-foot county roadway that is located on the northern portion of Reserve D. Section 62-111 states that one half of this road would have to be constructed to concrete curb and gutter. Once the property is platted, Del Bello Lakes will transfer the ownership of Reserve D to the city of Manvel. Reserve D is being used for the elevated storage tank, which is our water tower that's going to be located on this property. The 40-foot county road right-of-way extends 233 feet from State Highway 288. It terminates with the length of Reserve D and does not connect to another roadway, whether it be improved or unimproved. It is not known if TxDOT has any plans for a feeder road on this section between Del Bello Boulevard and Rodeo Palms and Croy Parkway North. But the city would still like the opportunity to gain access to 288 in the event that is constructed in the future. So before you, staff is recommending approval of the subdivision variance with 4 conditions of how those are outlined in the development agreement that you've received. One being upon complete construction of a northbound State Highway 288 feeder road. B, upon further subdivision of Reserve D by developer, any successor in interest. It should be noted in the development agreement that you have before you, it says the property, but we'd like to specify that this is going to be for Reserve D. C, within 90 days of the city giving notice that it will construct the roadway, or D, upon occurrence of the abutting property owners developing or redeveloping the abutting property.
All right. Any discussion?
So are they not, they're not going to escrow for their portion?
No, I'm so sorry. It is for an agreement to escrow if any of those occurrences happen with those conditions. I apologize. It is to agree to escrow the funds at the time of construction.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Del Bello Lakes development.
All right. The variance, yes.
Variance.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Next, we have consideration and possible action to approve master plan for Valencia being 438.4 acres of land, Manvel, Texas. Jessica.
Hello. Sorry. The Valencia master plan was resubmitted recently on June 13th. The Valencia master plan had also been brought before you in January. You heard this on your January 18th, 2022 agenda, and it was not approved. The Planning, Development, and Zoning Commission recently heard this on June 29th of their agenda, and they made a recommendation of approval to you with 4 yeas to 1 nay. Staff is not recommending approval of the Valencia master plan as proposed. The lands to be dedicated in the first phase of development for public right-of-way, public parkland, public use trails, or school site purposes. The property does not have to be platted. It can be dedicated by meets and bounds. 2 is to provide a traffic study for the master plan that removes the elementary school site with additional single-family residential. The difference between the January Valencia master plan that was brought before you showed Alvin ISD having a school site. The plan as it was resubmitted on June 13th shows that school site with single-family residential. That is in also our design criteria manual upholds a traffic study. The 3rd is to provide the signatures on sheet 2 of the Valencia master plan. And then lastly, to update the city council signature block so that there is only one signature, not a specific person on that signature block if approved.
All right. Do you have any questions?
So what does the contract and the development agreement say about said items concerning dedication up front and the traffic study? I mean, because I know that Mr. Bynum quoted our ordinances and our design criteria, but what does the agreement say?
The agreement talks about the dedication, I think that the agreement talks about the dedication of the roads within 90, actually, it says submission of a plat for the roads within 90 days of the approval of the agreement, and that was done last August. The developer submitted, I think, 24 plats at one time, including plats that included the roads, and all 24 of those were denied. The submission of the plat for the road was done. None of them were approved, though. The submission of the transportation impact analysis, which was kind of one of those questioning things. Again, the ordinance says submission, the design criteria manual says approval. One of the issues is that the master plan that you have, like Jessica said, the master plan that you have does not include a school site. The TIA includes traffic for a school site. So they're not the same. That's one of the major problems. Also included in, and Russ is right, the impact analysis isn't done because there are at least 7 intersections that are deemed unacceptable in the TIA for the way that they are designed right now. So the impact analysis could not be approved because there's at least 7 designed intersections that are unacceptable. The impact analysis says that. So there are some issues with what has been submitted.
So is everybody working on this right now? Like, since this has happened, because this has been PD&Z and then now us, have you guys gotten back to the table to discuss that? Like, what's the next step, or are they just coming too soon?
Well, I think we've provided comments back to the engineers for the developer that they need to revise the TIA so that the intersections that work. And we asked if you're going to submit a separate master plan, the TIA needs to determine what the needs are for that plan, not something that's different. So it doesn't appear that what has been submitted is the same. PD&Z talked about it quite a bit, and they were trying to come up with a way to make a conditional approval to you, and I think they got frustrated at the end of the meeting and just kind of sort of threw up their hands, voted 4-1, and said, "Council, y'all figure it out."
Did you say 6 yes, 1 no? Is that right?
It was 4-1.
4-1?
We had 2 members that were absent.
So it came through with a yes.
With a recommendation.
Y'all are saying no. The way I'm reading this, and it's just me, love to hear what everybody has to say, this is administrative stuff that just needs to be worked out, right?
This is the master plan for the development. The master plan comes to the city council for approval, and then any plats that come out of that have to conform to the master plan. If there are changes to the master plan, to the plan for the development, then they'd have to resubmit a new master plan back to the council for consideration and approval. We did send an email to Bill Van Wagner at the school district and asked them if they were still interested in having a school site in the development, and they did express that they were.
But there's no school site here.
No, ma'am.
Russ, you come up and give us some answers. What happened to the school?
Couple of things. With that school site located there, we don't know if it's going to be 15.5 acres or 15.4 acres. We've got the geometry of the streets, right, which is part of the plats, but we don't quite have maybe the geometry figured out of the adjacent streets and section until we get a little bit further into design. So we said, okay, for now, in order to get the master plan approved so that we can get preliminary plats approved and get through design, let's take that off for now. By the way, the school district does not have it approved yet. They've not gone to their board to get it approved. They're going to have to do a bond election to build the school. We would love for a school to be there, but we just don't know if the school district is going to say yes. They own 68 acres adjacent to Valencia, and they may utilize that land, perhaps. We'd love for them to be in our community. That's why we had it on there to begin with. But at this time, it's not approved, so I can't plat a school that may not be there.
And doesn't that affect the traffic study as well?
So, good point. In fact, the school site will generate far more traffic than the homes would if it was all homes. And so the traffic report that was being submitted is, generates a lot more traffic. And so it's more conservative versus it being homes. And so the traffic report that was submitted is very conservative, and it over-exaggerates the traffic that would or could be there if just homes were lotted out and platted. So if the school district does decide to buy and they approve that through the board, then that'll convert back to a school, and then that traffic report will now line up and appropriately show the level of service. Now, the level of service on those 7 intersections, that is a fact that they fail, right? What's not talked about is, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to fail? Failing's not good, but what are some things that can be done to solve those problems? For example, you can put a stop sign up, and as easy as that, that'll help. You can utilize different programs like Synchro or Sim Traffic, and sometimes those programs, depending on how detailed they are, will give you a little bit different answer. And so we've gone back in this last week, we've kind of dove in a little bit more, and we've utilized a different program that gives us better, more accurate results. The city of Sugar Land uses it, the city of Houston uses it, so it's not that it's just, back of pocket, we'll use this to get a better answer. We want to talk to the city about those improvements needed before we just submit it and say approved. One of the solutions is to put a bunch of stop signs on all the roadways. And sometimes that's not the right solution, because then all of a sudden you start causing unnecessary traffic issues. So we want to talk to staff about it, but they've informed us that they don't want to talk about it until we fix all the problems and then resubmit everything. Well, before we go and spend a bunch of money on revising the report, let's sit down and collaboratively talk through it. And if everybody agrees, we'll wrap the report up, show the list of recommendations, and get on down the road. Really the same is true for the street dedication. We know why that was agreed to, because y'all don't want to be left with a situation like you were adjacent to Valencia. We don't want that either. We're ready to dedicate these roads and have them in y'all's hands. And we're trying to do that, and that's what the submittal of the master plan is for. It's kind of a general plan, and then you go deeper into preliminary plats, then you go into engineering and final plats, and that's where the approved traffic study comes into play, which is the design criteria manual. That's where you actually physically design all of the elements, you call out all the curve radiuses and all that. That's when that comes into play. So I don't disagree with that at that stage, but I think just a submittal of the TIA, we're this close to it, just the submittal, as it says in the ordinance, would qualify to have the master plan approved. So that's the school, that's the TIA, and that's the street dedication plats.
And I thank you for all that information.
I know, it's a lot.
But I want to rewind back to the school, because if the school is there, then it does trigger a lot of other things in reference to the traffic study, the roads, the what, on and on and on. Have you gotten, you said they'll have to have a bond for the school. So do you have any time frame for this, or does this fit into your time frame for, the master plan with the school?
It does. Ultimately, right now, if we were to build houses today, those children would go to E.C. Mason, right? That was just built. It's a brand new school, just opened up last year. And for the foreseeable future, that's where the children would go. But based on their demographics, there's a lot of people coming to Manvel, right? Y'all know it. Everybody knows it. And so,
C. Mason knows it.
that's right. As a result, in time, there will need to be a school there. No doubt about it, or in that vicinity, right? They own 68 acres, could be on that. They could choose to put it on there. They also own the site down at 1128 in Dogwood. So that's another location that they could put a school if they deem necessary.
But are you going to hold, this is my question, are you going to hold that site, or are you going to go ahead and build homes, or are you going to wait until you get some word, yay or nay, from the school? I'm just curious how this plays out.
It's a great question, and I love that question. In our very first phase, that pod or area is not in our first phase. In fact, I don't even think it was included in the calculation of the connections, right? So something like that would be probably in a phase 2 configuration, whether it's a school or lots. We want it to be a school. I just don't have all the geometric items figured out to plat it as a school. And if I plat it as a school and the school district says, sorry, we don't have the money, we're going to build the school at 1128 in Dogwood, now I've got a school platted on our land for who, right? So I want to be cautious about that. And so in our PUD, and that's why we did it in our PUD, we said, hey, if the school doesn't want to do this, then it can become single-family homes. And so the short answer is we're not doing anything with it. We're not selling it to anybody else. We're just holding it off for now. And when things become a little bit more concrete, like with the geometry of our roadways and our sections adjacent to us, and the school district saying, yes, not only do we want it, but the board approved for the contract to move forward, then we're ready to go. We've had numerous conversations with the district on a variety of topics, straight sale, some land swap. We're trying to figure everything out. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay. Lorraine?
Just hearing that we're talking about some intersections that possibly don't meet our standards and whether an elementary school is the school's gonna buy your land, and a traffic study that may not be relevant depending on whether there's a school or not, and some dedications that are coming. Is that it in a gist? Am I hearing
Some
that
signature
right?
blocks.
Yeah, that's administrative. So, does this, I guess, does this need to be tabled with direction to work this out? Because denial will push you back further.
Right. It'll
So,
further delay us.
is that what you're asking, is for a table so that you guys can work this out and move on?
No, I'm asking for an approval. And specifically because in the ordinance it says all you need to do is submit it. Staff says, no, you got to have it approved. I disagree, and I think perhaps maybe a reading of the ordinance might be necessary. The all lands being dedicated per our development agreement, it says, hey, we're going to do this based on street dedication plats, which we can't get approved until after the master plan is approved. So it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg, but we put it in our development agreement to avoid confusion, which here we are. So we're trying to do this in a manner that's consistent with our agreements.
What about our intersections? How are you gonna resolve that before that?
The intersections, we've got to meet with Dan and city staff to go through our new results that we've done this week, to make sure he's on board with it. And then if staff is good with those corrections, then we're done effectively.
And if they're not good with your corrections, y'all just go back and forth and.
I mean,
Just wondering.
based on what we think might have to happen, which is adding a right turn lane, it should be approved, but I thought this was going to be an easier approval as well, so we don't know yet. And we're trying to get in touch with Dan and to go through with all that, so.
All right, Jessica?
I just wanted to make a point going back to the concern for the school site and saying, well, we're not going to plat it if, that's not the intention for the school. The property can be replatted. You can plat it as one reserved site for a school. If the school never uses a site, it can be replatted into however many lots and streets as you see configured on the master plan. I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Jason?
Russ, did I understand, you said that the traffic study that you gave the city based on the school, that the school's gonna generate more traffic than would homes that you put on there?
Yes.
And I have to take your word for that?
Well, I mean, you can read the report too. That'll be made available. And it's in the report now. But generally speaking, an 800-person school on a daily basis generates more traffic than 60 homes.
Is that
Got-
a fair assessment?
You've got workers, you've got the children coming in and parents.
I'm with you on not platting a piece of land for a school, and I'm with Jessica on, you know, if you just do that, then you can replat it later, but I'm struggling with getting on your side on the traffic study, because just the idea that any developer just submits a piece of paper and you call it a win, that's, if the report's not worth the paper it's written on, then I'm struggling with reconciling that.
Sure, no, I understand your concern. The good news is that your design criteria, going through all of that, it does take into consideration an approved traffic impact study, because you've got to have an approved traffic impact study before you start designing your intersection layouts. The submittal, which is necessary for the approval of a master plan, is just that. It just says, hey, we've submitted it. We know we have to do one. We know there could be potential issues, but we're just submitting at a very high level this master plan that says, okay, here are the roads, here's where the lots go, here's some parks and trails and this and that. And so that's why at the master plan milestone, it's just a submittal. When you get further into design, you've got to have that traffic impact study approved. No doubt about it.
Just one last question to follow up with Councilmember Hain. I think I feel the same as what I understand her intent. What I've read as her intent is that this feels like you two could sit down and hash the city, and you can sit down and hash this out if we tabled this, but you didn't seem interested. Are you not willing to sit down with the city manager and try to hash this out, and if we tabled this?
Absolutely. Look, if you table it, then we're still going to do what we were going to do anyway, is sit down with the city to go through the traffic impact analysis. Our engineer is here. They've tried to set up a meeting, and they said, fix all the problems first, then we'll sit down with you. So we were trying to be collaborative in nature to go through with it, and just kind of
think
got.
you and your staff can find a common ground
Sure.
here?
We'll be happy to sit down and talk with them. Again, we have to come back with some sort of recommendation to the council. If the two things don't match, I'm not sure what to recommend.
Which two things?
If the TIA and the master plan don't match. And Russ is right, it's different. I don't claim to be an engineer or a traffic engineer. But you're right, the use of a school and the use of homes is different. Whether it's more or less, I'm not an engineer, so I won't even claim to say which one would generate more, but it's different. And you would think that the impact analysis would be far enough along that two things. One, it's going to be calculating the same thing as the plan. And also, I understand what Russ is saying, you don't want a document that's coming in that says this isn't going to work. And that unacceptable use, I think, is the term that's actually in it. Is again, I'm not an engineer, but if you have a document that's going to be talking about how traffic flows through a 1,000-lot subdivision, you don't want to have the submitted TIA to say it's not going to work.
I'm sorry, may I comment? So did you read the traffic study? Did you guys read it? Okay, and it includes a school or not? It includes a school.
The traffic study that was submitted, that we reviewed, includes a school.
Which means it is conservative, as he suggested, that if there is no school there, it's actually a little bit better off.
I don't
then
know
he's
that I
gonna-
can say that. I mean, it's different. I'll give you that for sure. It's different. But I mean, I can't just carte blanche say that a school has more traffic than homes because it depends on how many homes, right? How big of a school, how many, it's not just one to one. I don't think that's, so I don't know. And that was the whole point. If it's going to be something other, fine, whatever. But we need to know, the traffic study needs to represent that.
But before design, getting a traffic study that's more specific to that area is going to be necessary no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point. It's site specific.
Site
So
specific.
this spot right here is our discussion at PD&Z was, what if Dogwood and Charlotte aren't enough? I mean, I don't know, but what if there was another east-west road needed? Or what if there's another north-south road? That's kind of impactful to your master plan. If you're going to need, I don't think you do, but what if you needed another road? That would, if we're talking about four-way stops, okay, no big deal. Yeah, the master plan's way at the 10,000-foot level, but we need to know that with so many intersections failing, and
7 out of how many?
7?
Total out of this whole thing?
Yeah. So I think 7 out of 7. I don't know, 7 out of 9. I don't know. I mean, most of them were. So yeah, I mean, the response is sort of a half truth. I mean, the way that it's being portrayed. I mean, is, hey, well, let's get together and talk. I literally just hit send to the comments. Well, let's get down and talk.
No, I know. I'm
know,
not
but do
trying to
your
say that we're
homework
not getting
first
along.
before
because- I know, I'm not trying to say that we're not all getting along here, so I'm gonna bring that down a little bit.
Right.
I'm with, Albert here, and you're talking about 4 things that can, explainable, worked with this developer before. I don't know, I can't find a big reason for holding this up for something that you cannot just get through. I understand, master plan, it's done, once it's done, it's done. But intersections, the submission of a traffic study, we can't control whether the school's going to buy the land or not. The man has a right to say, you know what, I'm gonna just get houses because the school's dragging their feet. We can't, how do we intend on holding them up on these little things? They're probably big, but they seem little considering big development. And if tabling is he's just trying to stay on a timeline. I know how they are. They just want to keep going. Excuse me, I'm not trying to be rude. They. 4 things, that's all I'm hearing. And it can't be worked out, and there can't be an addendum to the let's approve it. PD&Z said, okay, with the exception that these have to be resolved now before the next first plat comes in. That's not something we can do?
I'm not sure how you would conditionally approve a master plan. I think you either approve it or you don't.
The 15-day shot clock too, so if you table it and go past the 15 days, it gets deemed approved.
Oh, hell, I forgot about that. The shot clock.
Yes, this is the resubmittal. I forgot about that.
This is the resubmittal, and we're on that 15-day.
Yes. So,
We don't even have time.
if after the 15 days it's deemed approved anyway.
When did the 15 days start?
When they resubmitted it, I don't remember exactly what date that is.
So not today, no.
It's shortly. Probably this week, as my guess would be.
15 days from PD&Z's meeting on the 27th.
Next Monday.
I didn't read that this was a resubmittal. I thought this was the very first time we were looking at this.
Yeah. You had already denied it one time.
Tell me what happens if we do deny. How does that work?
You authorize the staff to provide the reasons for the denial to the applicant, and they have to resubmit it to address those comments. Like, actually, it's what I think there was a denial. We submitted comments back to them previously. This would be, if you deny it, we would have the reasons for the denial. We would provide that back, and then they would go back through the process. At some point, if they would resubmit, you'd have another 15 days to take action on it.
And we can't do an approval, or you're not recommending it anyways, but you don't recommend any kind of conditional approval.
again, it's the master plan. Again, if the council wants to approve it, you have the authority to do that. It's a master plan. If for some reason the school district wants to buy the land, they're gonna have to come back with a revised master plan. If they wanna move sections or significantly change whatever the plan is, then they have to bring it back.
Either way.
So you have the ability to do that. We're just saying that there are some issues with it. So.
I have to say, and I'm confused about this, Kyle, they have erred on the side of more traffic than less. And I know it's different, it's not, okay. But, I mean, that's what keeps reeling.
They did the TIA with the previous master plan that had the school site. Then they changed the master plan, and they didn't update the TIA. They just simply, and I think it was because of the dedication of the school site. That's what I get the impression that's what he didn't want to do. Therefore, it was changed to single family, and it didn't impact the TIA because the TIA had already been submitted, comments had been made. So you have a TIA that was from a previous plan. The plan was changed since it was denied. It removed the school site so the dedication wouldn't be required. And then the second master plan, or the revision of the master plan, was submitted.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could just add one more thing.
Yes.
That I think is significant. A master plan is often treated like a master preliminary plat. And there's two approaches I've seen. One where they get very specific in the master plat or the master plan itself, and the statute allows them to go straight to final plat. But you need to have a real good idea of your skeleton and your, what you're going to do to go straight to final plat. Other ones, you do a more general plan, but you still do preliminary plat, which gives the city authority to get involved at the preliminary stage, and then they'll do a final plat. And if I remember right, when I asked that in PD&Z, Russ said they were going to do the preliminary plat, which means it's not quite as crucial to get everything nailed down as finely as you can in the master plan. And I don't know if your experience has been the same, Russ, and Jessica, but I think that's a significant because we will still be able to get involved with the preliminary platting like we commonly do, and instead of having them go straight to final plat, which was an option under our master plan statute. So I wanted to let you know that I think that's significant, that we will be able to get involved with the preliminary plat if council does want to go forward. But the more detail you can get on the front end for something this big, I mean, you're setting the anchors down a lot for the spine and what's going to happen where. How big of a road do you need may depend on what's going there, what's going here. I mean, so as much detail as you can. It's in the city's best interest to try to get as much as you can as soon as you can, because it helps for better planning, in my opinion. That's just my 2 cents anyway.
Well, and I agree with you. On the other hand, we've got a developer who is between a rock and a hard place with this school. So,
Can I answer the question?
yes.
So, and I don't mean this to come across negatively towards you, but we just have to take his word for it that he's going to do preliminary plats? Or if we approve this, can he have told you that he's going to do that and then go right to final plat?
Well, he said it on the record, and maybe twice now. If he says it again, I mean, that's more than you'll get for a developer.
If I may,
Yes, please do.
we've already created the preliminary plats. So those will be, if they're not being submitted, they've already been submitted actually. So that's our standard typical process. We do a general plan, which is also called a master plan. It's a layer of detail, right? So the top layer is not as detailed, which is the general plan. The preliminary plat is more detail, but not every detail, and that comes next. And then we go into final plat and engineering design drawings. And that gives you all of the details where that group gets to review and mull over those and, make comments and say, hey, we don't like this, you should do this, and so that's where staff really engages in that detailed process.
Just I guess a question. Perhaps it's for him. Will the road dedication plats be separate from any sections? Because I'd mentioned it at the last, at PD&Z, because there are unopened rights-of-way that crisscross your 430 acres. And the agreement is, we're not going to abandon those road rights-of-way until the major thoroughfares are dedicated. So in the first submission of plats, you had roads and sections all in the same thing. So it was more of it's a notice question and a notice to the council that if there are sections that are built in with the roads, you cannot approve them because there are unopened road rights-of-way that crisscross those sections.
Brian Underwoods with LGA. All the roadway plats are separate dedications.
Thank you. That makes it easier.
Makes it way easier, and it makes it way easier for y'all. One, for reviewing it, but also accepting.
Yes.
I need to tell you, I perfectly understand now why it was told to me that PD&Z was exhausted. And that the comment was made, council never listens to us anyway, so they're going to do whatever they want to do. So I think that we're going to have to, first of all, correct that mindset. But, and hopefully we will be able to do that one-on-one with, different members of PD&Z so that they understand that we're not here to just, do the opposite of what they've done. So, anybody else? Are we ready? Does anybody want to take any other action? Where are we?
I just want to make a comment that in my thoughts and what I'm reading, what I understand it and what we've done before, this is a very acceptable plan. I do know and understand that, things change. We always have every developer come in and market changes. I don't like these houses. We need different lots. We want to do this, that, and the other. They didn't buy this. We want to make a swap. It happens all the time. So I do understand, and I live in a development where everything was final the very first time. And we had a lot of problems in Rodeo Palms because they made all kinds of weird changes. And we are a lot more involved and going through the levels of, preliminaries and then finals and all that stuff. And not everything is going to be perfect. And this list that I'm understanding is a very small, picky list. And I appreciate the pickiness because I want us to know everything up front, anything that can go wrong. But these are things that I think are either we're waiting to see what's going to happen or can be fixed at the table. And this is a pretty full plan with a couple of changes. I can remember seeing plans that seem like master plans that are just blobs with lines that we fought over for a long period of time, and this is not that. This is as detailed as it can get to be starting, and nothing that I don't see will be a problem in the future that staff is not going to work out, that you guys are not going to work out. So I just want to make that comment that that's just what I think about what this looks like, if anybody else wants to jump in and make a comment.
I would feel remiss if I did not call you out, Dan. When Councilmember Haynes said picky, those eyes shifted really, really tight. So please respond to that. I mean, you obviously do not think that this is the staff just nitpicking, correct? I'm sorry to do that to you, but it looked obvious enough that we needed a response.
I mean, just on the staff side, I know what we have to go through to review these plans, and we're sort of constantly at this battle. And if y'all aren't going to back us up, then it feels a little lonely, So I don't know if that's the easiest way to say it, but I suppose everything that we look at is picky for that matter. I mean,
And I
we have a
appreciate
code book
that.
that's that
I
thick.
absolutely appreciate that because I want to yield to y'all in this. But all I'm saying is that major development, he doesn't know if the school's coming, he has a right to change it to a single family if he wants to. A plan that's at the very beginning, there's not even anything there yet, but you've read it, you said, yes, it's different, school, I understand. But closer to that, you guys are going to ask him for more details when it comes to traffic when you get closer and closer. The intersections, you know, all safety, all you guys got it. You're gonna work it out. I believe 100% y'all are gonna work it out. But to stop right here, you're telling me, to stop right here and say, not gonna work it out, absolutely not. We're not going not one step further until all of this is decided. That can't really be decided now. And again, I've seen master plans that are nothing but a blob that, well, we have to stand behind it. It's in the contract. It's just a line. We're not sure what words are gonna be in there. Lots and all that stuff. I'm trying to find a balance here, and please, I apologize. I don't want to be offensive. I just want to move on.
Can I make one comment? And nitpicking is the key to this whole thing. Because I was looking back at the PUD. In the PUD, there's two things that, in my opinion, could be conflicting. There is language in there that allows the developer to swap this school site for single family. There's also a provision in there that says land use shall be regulated on a total acre basis. Each land use may be increased or decreased in acreage by up to 10% of the total acreage value. And then there's a table that talks about constraints, community elements, commercial, single family. In community elements, it's 13 acres. Recreation center and parks is 5.8. Elementary school is 15.1. Landscaping and open spaces is 9.2. So if we take half of that out, that's more than 10%. You have two conflicting things in this document itself. So how do we square that?
But we agreed to it. So what do you do in that?
Which one?
No, I don't know. You agreed to it. We signed it. This is what we agreed to. So we're going to have to fight it all the way
No,
down to the end?
the idea would be, should he be able to only produce or convert part of the elementary school? Because it's a community element. It's not single family. You know, if it's 10%, that would be 3 acres he could be able to convert if you use the 10%. So to say that the staff is being nitpicky, well,
I apologize. I'm
That's
not
what we're
trying
supposed to do.
to be offensive. I understand that is your job to do that, and I'm going to go with that because I'm not good at that part. That's y'all's job. I'm just saying, I don't want to be at this table, and I'll say it, at heading off every developer about everything all the time when these things, I feel, could have been worked out before they even got here. That's what I think. I don't want to come back and forth and say, well, over things all the time and not be here. I want to rely on y'all to, you know what, we came to agreement, we're taking it. We're doing this.
that's one of the reasons why this is a resubmittal. The idea was, the council denied this. We provided those issues back to the developer. The developer submitted this. It doesn't appear that it addressed all those things. And again, I said from the beginning, the council has the authority to approve this right now. You do. The master plan is what you do. PD&Z takes care of all of the rest of it. So if the master plan doesn't change, you'll never see this again, any of it. Plats, anything. You won't see any of it because the master plan is the only thing that the council deals with.
Are there ways to resolve these issues back at your table, at the staff level?
It does not hold you up from approving the master plan. If you want to do that, you can do that right now.
That's not what I'm asking you.
And then we will deal with it at the preliminary plat level or the final plat level. It will be done with at PD&Z's. It won't come back to you because unless the master plan changes, you won't see this again.
That's not what I'm asking you. If there's a denial tonight, is there a way to resolve these problems?
Certainly. If the denial is based on the TIA and the master plan don't match, they would submit either a new TIA or a new master plan, whichever one that would, be the same. If they submitted the previous plan with the current TIA, it matches up with what land uses are in it. Still doesn't meet sort of those 7 areas that are not acceptable, but at least it would be the same plan and the same TIA, looking at the same land uses. So,
Okay.
again, this is kind of this, as you said, this is the same discussion that PD&Z had, and they kind of threw up their hands and said, let the council decide. If you want to approve the master plan, approve it, and then we'll deal with the details at the staff and at PD&Z, and we'll move forward.
Then if that was the case, then why did we get a recommended deny?
Because you have 2 things that are not the same, dealing with the same development.
I understand that, and I'm with you on that. But if PD&Z approved it, and you're saying what I'm hearing you say is, just go ahead and approve it, and we'll fix it later. If you could fix it later, then why didn't we just approve it and we'll fix it later? Because planning and zoning already approved it.
Because you needed to know the background on the issues associated with it. And I'm telling you, you have the ability to approve it right now. PD&Z recommended that you approve it. How about that?
Yeah, fair. And
Whose side are you on?
I'm on the city side.
I know, I'm just being
No,
obnoxious,
again-
obviously.
And I don't claim to know everything about every type of development, and there are issues with all of them. Engineering and all of it, and it takes a lot to do it. I'm just saying that if you want to approve it, and let's move on.
Okay.
If you don't want to approve it, deny it, and let's move on.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve? This is a tough one.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
All right. Have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? How many we got? What do we do here? 4. Okay. All right, it fails. I'm sorry? Three, 4, 3. 3, 4.
The vote failed, but because it failed and it's on the shot clock, it's approved.
But she's saying, then it makes the shot clock.
No. What it does is, in effect, what we do is we provide the reasons for the denial back to the developer. The developer can work on it. When they submit it, there's another 15-day period that council has to take some action on it. Yes. Well, if they had not taken any action, yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. All right. Number 5, consideration and possible action to approve Resolution 2022 R09, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Manvel, Texas, supporting the expedited construction of Segment B of SH 99, the Grand Parkway, in Brazoria and Galveston counties, and setting forth other related matters thereto.
Mayor and council members, we received this resolution. I think it came from the city of League City, but Alvin and several other cities had requested the council to consider supporting the submission and the eventual construction of the section of the Grand Parkway that generally goes from Sugarland to 146 or somewhere over towards I-10. And I don't know, I don't remember exactly where that segment is, but there's a recommendation to support that section.
This is the second time we've been asked to do this, and it's such an important project that they want to make sure everybody's on board. So I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? All those opposed, motion carries 7-0. We have mayor and council comments at this time. Anybody have anything? Yes, ma'am.
I've sent some emails out. Some of them are time sensitive. If you'll just check your emails and reply back to me on the different things if you want to attend them or not.
Okay. I guess we got all our partying out of the way last night, huh, everybody? Celebrating, I should say. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor? And we are adjourned.